know what? That was my best attempt at an elephant, best attempt at Dumbo. Haha, what's up everybody? It's your boy Leo Rydell here from Geekly Goods to talk about Dumbo today, and whew, guys, there's a lot to talk about here, and not a lot of good. This remake was directed by Tim Burton, and it stars a slew of great cast members, including Danny DeVito, Colin Farrell, you got Michael Keaton, Eva Green, a lot of people, even a couple of newcomers on the scene, a couple of new kids on the scene as well. And wow, let me start off with the good stuff first. The best part of this movie is Dumbo himself. I mean, come on, the little guy is adorable, he's lovable, he's funny, he is an absolute scene stealer, and the best part about it is the CGI is so well done. I mean, he looks like he belongs in the environment. He's wonderful, he's magical, he's hilarious, and the flying looks absolutely 100% accurate, and it looks so believable. It's so magical. Every single scene where he was soaring through the crowd and flapping his big old ears, it was just like magic. Tim Burton would take that shot and cut back and forth between him flying and the audience cheering him on in amazement, and he would also cut to a first-person view of Dumbo. So I really liked that the most. I mean, it was just fantastic in that character alone, and unfortunately, that was the best. Dumbo was the best part of this movie, which I guess that accomplishes its purpose for Dumbo to be the star in the best part of Dumbo, but everything else kind of felt like it didn't add up to me. It felt like all the pieces of the puzzle were there, but they just didn't quite connect. Let me start with the cast. Like I said, we've got an all-star rockin' cast here, and I really love Danny DeVito's character in the first act, but just about everybody else, come on. They were line-reading drones, they were pretty dry, and they phoned in this performance pretty heavily. I'll say this, getting to think about it a couple nights, the cast wasn't as bad as I had initially thought, but they weren't exactly that great. They were a little bit emotionless, stiff. It just felt like there needed to be a lot more focus on direction. Like, dude, Tim Burton, jump in there and start telling them like, hey, you gotta go, let's roll, we're rolling, give it your best shot. And not to mention, you've got a couple of child actors who look incredibly likable, but they're really not. They're bone dry, and they just don't really go with Dumbo like Timothy Q. Mouse did, which, spoiler alert, that is one huge problem with this movie. No Timothy Q. Mouse! Like, are you kidding me? Timothy was the reason why Dumbo fell out of his depression when he was separated from his mother, and you're telling me they're gonna strip the movie of that? Whew, oh my goodness, that is a bad quality to take out, but again, him being replaced by the two kids, Colin Farrell's character, and they were all bone dry. I mean, they were forgettable, they were likable, but they just were so emotionless and stiff that it was hard to really root for them as main characters. Danny DeVito, though, oh my goodness, that first act felt like Frank Reynolds running a circus, and you guys, if you've seen Always Sunny in Philadelphia, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It seemed like a mess, but it was hilarious because, of course, it's Frank. And he had this funny demeanor, he was sloppy, he wasn't on top of it. Then you have Michael Keaton who comes along, who's an entrepreneur, sees Dumbo, takes interest, and he wants Dumbo for his circus. When Michael Keaton's character scooches in, what the hell? It sidelines just about everybody else besides Eva Green and, of course, Colin Farrell. The kids get kind of scooched aside, though. They get scooched aside, y'all. Even the kids do. And they're supposed to be like the Timothy Mouse of Dumbo. And come on. I mean, they don't really do that much helping for Dumbo. In the original, it was all about ditching the feather, being able to fly without any help. And while that was a theme in this movie, it was so very downplayed. I mean, in the original animation, you know, when he loses that feather and he jumps off the target, he flies off so magically, and while he does that a couple times here, it's not with the feather scene, and I thought that was such a big missed opportunity. But I want to dial back over to the cast. Eva Green and Colin Farrell's characters had this romance that seemed to be boiling off screen, because there was a lot of implications that they were really romantically into each other, but there weren't really any moments, and that's a couple of different things in this movie. I wanted to talk a little bit about Colin Farrell. His character, he's a war vet, he's returning from the the First World War, because this is in the 1910s. He loses his arm, he lost his wife, but we don't really get a lot of talking about that. It's just stuff that's implied off screen. And I'm like, guys, you gotta show me. Don't just tell me, show me. And it didn't do a great job of that. This was a little Tim Burton-esque. A little bit. It did have that touch of goth and dark that he always installs in his films. It didn't seem to be that obvious. It didn't seem that much Burton to me. Like, I think Alice in Wonderland, and I think of how big and scaled out that world was and how much there was to it, and it just seemed like Dumbo was so micro in set. They were mostly in the tents, and the tents were just damp and dry and just didn't really look like a circus in this magical act that I was wanting. So I was just, guys, in very, very many ways, I was very, very disinterested in this movie. Lots of one-liners in the script. The actors were really phoning it in. Tim Burton wasn't doing a great job of directing. It never felt like to me he had stepped in and said, dial it up, man, dial it up. I know you can do better. Batman and Penguin are in a movie together again. You bring back Keaton and Danny DeVito, and then you separate their characters? I mean, here's the thing. They did work together in the film for a little bit, but their characters were mostly separate and they didn't play off of each other. And I'm like, come on, man. Burton, you've done this before. It shouldn't be that hard to do it again. So I really was not a big fan of anything but Dumbo, really, if I'm being completely honest. Again, phoned in acting, very crappy script, not good direction, bone dry characters, bone dry. I mean, to the point where I was almost falling asleep. And interestingly enough, I was in a movie theater full of kids that were losing their minds before this movie. And when the movie started, I didn't hear that many laughs during the parts that were supposed to be funny. I didn't hear any whoa or moments of amazement with Dumbo. I really didn't hear any impressive sounds. And when the movie ended, oh my goodness, the kids were just not that amused. I mean, I didn't hear any laughing. I didn't hear any, mommy, that was fun. Any kind of implication that this was a good movie. So maybe kids didn't even like it either, guys. But out of 10, I'm going to have to give Dumbo a 6. And the only reason I'm giving it that high of a rating is because of Dumbo himself. And the rest of it, not a big fan. Unnecessary story changes as well. Just not that big of a fan of the rest. But again, a 6 out of 10 because Dumbo himself and the moments where he was flying were absolutely captivating, very scene-stealing, and very, very believable and real in CGI. I mean, I was absolutely impressed with the character Dumbo himself, but unfortunately, everything else just really couldn't follow. But guys, let me know what you think. Are you going to see Dumbo? Have you seen it? And what do you think about the movie if you have? Do you think maybe Tim Burton should hang it up? I don't know, guys. Let me know down in the comments. We'll see you next time on Geekly Goods. See you next time. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow Geekly Goods on all social media platforms, and grab something from our store. We take $1 of every purchase and donate it to arts education to keep arts in the classrooms. We'll see you next time.